Okay, let's skip across to Central Asia and check in on the United Nations Climate Conference, COP29, in Baku, Azerbaijan. And strap yourselves in, this is a confusing ride. Let's start with nuclear energy, which most developed nations are increasingly turning to because they can't see a way of getting to net zero without nuclear. At the last COP, 25 of the world's most successful nations signed up to triple the amount of nuclear power in the world by 2050. And at this COP, 6 more countries have signed up, including Turkey and oil-rich Nigeria, the most populous nation in Africa. And British Energy Minister Ed Miliband signed an agreement on nuclear energy, about nuclear energy and civil use of nuclear power, with the United States. And he suggested that Australia, the AUKUS partner of both nations, might join too. This caused a bit of a stir back in Canberra. Had Labor finally seen the light on nuclear and decided to join the modern world?
The UK Labor government has stated the agreement is, and I quote, expected to also be signed by Australia, and it will, quote, speed up the deployment of cutting-edge nuclear technology to help decarbonise industry and boost energy security. Can the Acting Prime Minister confirm Australia will sign this civil nuclear reactor agreement?
Well, no such luck. The Albanese Labor government was having none of this and was sticking to its 1970s-era anti-nuclear rhetoric.
I can confirm that the Australian government will not be signing that agreement. For Australia, pursuing a path of nuclear energy would represent pursuing the single most expensive electricity option on the planet.
They've got to hide, haven't they, talking about costs when they keep pushing our power prices up, not down, with their world-first renewables experiment, which is estimated to cost more than $600 billion. But there we are. That's the nature of the climate and energy debate, even still in 2024. It's not so much about facts and engineering, it's more about emotions and ideology.
Welcome to Baku.
Yeah, all the usual types are there in Baku at the moment. And as usual, there are complaints. As I mentioned last week, critics didn't like the fact that Azerbaijan is an oil and gas exporter, or that it considers these natural resources a gift from God. At least the controversy has kept some annoying activists away.
Going to Azerbaijan to COP, it is extreme hypocrisy of the UNFCCC to let yet another authoritarian petrol state and regime host the COP.
That's got to be a relief for some of them, I'd reckon. Although maybe Greta wouldn't be welcome there anyway, because when you have a look at this official video, COP29 looks a little blokey. They need a bit more of that Donald Trump dancing, don't they? Still, there was nothing that was going to keep some of the career climate alarmists away, even if they've been upset yet again by a United States election result.
Do not be discouraged by any temporary political setbacks. We have to do this. We have no choice. We can do this. We have the technologies, the models, the policies. We know what works. And if you doubt for one moment that we have the political will necessary, remember, political will is itself a renewable resource. Thank you very much.
Poor old Al Gore. He just recycles the same old stuff. That's the inconvenient truth. And truth be known, there's a lot of nutty stuff at these climate talk fests, from a guru's words of wisdom.
Namaskaram, here in Baku, Azerbaijan. Well, this is my first outing after they removed half my brain.
To an American politician who seems to be making up the meteorology and climatology as she goes.
The weather is changing. The floods, the flooding, the heat islands, all the climate issues and changes that are happening in front of all of us, there will be a point where no one can deny it. We're almost there now because summers are gone, and on the East Coast where you have 4 seasons, we're down to maybe 1 or 2.
Really? No more seasons on the East Coast of America? 1 season? The thing is that this talkfest is like a honeypot to activists and virtue signallers from every corner of the globe. Have a listen to this pair.
Day 4 at COP. How was it, Sujata?
Oh, it was such a happening, exciting day. Today, Safe Soil signed an MOU with Ministry of Ecology of Uzbekistan.
And the latest campaign that we're running, Handprints for Soil. We unveiled a 700 handprint chain, which came from 45 different countries.
Wow.
A 700 handprint chain. Wow. Changing the world, one handprint at a time. But when it comes to sanctimony on climate, few things beat the vegans, the animal rights crusaders and the vegan zealots. The UK is taking this stuff so seriously that it put on a special vegan dinner at its embassy in Geneva to mark the COP29 talks, saving the planet one vegan cocktail party at a time. But in Baku, where the cabbage really hits the road, there was consternation from some activists that the labelling of vegetarian and vegan foods was all wrong.
COP29 has taken huge steps in the wrong direction. We notice there's a huge problem with mislabeling food. There's salmon in a dish labeled vegan. There's beef in a dish labeled vegetarian. What is going on?
Okay, I want to point something out. It says vegan bagel, and there's feta cheese in it.
Such a scandal. Want to make the world better? Ban the feta. But this vegan push is deadly serious at COP29. Some were pushing to get us all off meat and other animal proteins, and that they reckon taxes should be introduced to help us make that switch.
These are our demands. We believe that COP29 and UNFCCC conferences thereafter can only be successful if the closing statement includes transitioning away from animal protein overconsumption according to national or global dietary guidelines by implementing greenhouse gas emission pricing mechanisms in agri-food systems.
These people are just so miserable, aren't they, and authoritarian, which is why I was glad to find that one bloke had turned up to highlight their hypocrisy, because while these people talk the talk, they don't walk the walk.
High-profile speakers talked about meat rationing and a meat tax and how the danger that agriculture and farmers were doing to the climate summit. Well, guess what? At this UN climate summit, you can see right there, they're serving beef hot dogs, they're serving burgers. I have the menus here. Meat is here, and I have not noticed any kind of meat tax additional on the food.
Yeah, hot dogs and burgers and no extra tax, no climate tax on the COP29 food menu. But it gets worse. These virtue signallers who travel the world to tell the rest of us not to travel, and who live high on the hog while telling the rest of us to live simpler lives, well, just have a look at what they choose to do when they're presented with the planet-destroying option of eating meat or the climate-conscious option of eating vegan.
There is a line at COP29's food court for the buffet serving meat, another buffet serving meat, and here is the vegan-only restaurant. Doesn't quite look like the same amount of interest by the UN delegation here.
Just brilliant, isn't it? Virtue signalling exposed. They failed the test of conviction, failed the test of authenticity, but they passed the test of common sense, I suppose. Let's call it the burger test. They were exposed by 2 all-beef patties, sanctimony sauce, selfishness and hypocrisy on a virtue signalling bun.